Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, released in 2006 as a prequel to the 2003 reboot. The Beginning mostly takes place in 1969, 4 years before Jessica Biel and her friends stumbled into the Hewitt family hellscape. In this movie, we follow another group of hot young people who find themselves victimized by the Hewitts. Aside from an incidental plot point about draft dodging the Vietnam War, there's hardly anything memorable about The Beginning. Most of it plays out exactly as you'd expect, and since it's a prequel, you already know that all the Hewitt family members are going to survive. Although there is a cool bit of backstory involving Sheriff Hoyt's origins. There's a lot more gore than the remake, since Saw and Hostel had come out by this point, and the filmmakers felt the need to keep upping the ante. But this prequel still ends up being probably the most forgettable entry of the franchise alongside Part 3. Doesn't mean we won't get cool kills in it though, so let's find out how many we're working with here and get to them. The movie begins at a slaughterhouse in 1939. Back in my day, we didn't need no Leatherface to slam our metal doors. Doors did it themselves, they did. An unnamed woman working inside starts complaining to her boss about some stomach pains before her water breaks, which quickly turns into a blood flood. And it's steaming blood? What the fuck? Anyway, this is enough to kill the poor woman, making her our first addition to the kill count. The baby she died giving birth to has some kind of skin condition that creeps out her boss so much he ends up tossing it into a dumpster. The baby is found later by a young Luda Mae Hewitt, who's more than willing to rescue it and take it home to the Hewitt house so Arlie Ermey can get a jump start on berating it.
That's the ugliest thing I ever saw.
Yeah, almost as ugly as this title card. The opening credits sequence involves backstory about Thomas Hewitt, aka Leatherface, and the town he lives in that we probably could have figured out on our own. But hey, how else could we have gotten that flashbulb sound effect so early? After all that, we're in 1969, and the slaughterhouse is being condemned and closed thanks to that pesky health department. Always trying to keep rat feces out of our food. I thought this was America. With the plant closing down, young Tommy Hewitt is now out of a job, so he's forced to hand in his apron and cleaver. That gives Thomas some economic anxiety, and he takes it out by whacking the slaughterhouse owner with a mallet, knocking him to the ground. Oh, and then he makes sure that he ain't walking out of this place anytime soon. Ouch. He kills the dude with a bash to the head and an evil glare into the camera. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the moment that Thomas Hewitt became Leatherface. I mean, he is already wearing leather on his face. Oh, and look, a chainsaw. Perfect. While Leatherface is busy establishing his origin story, a cop named Sheriff Winston visits the Hewitt house. There, he tells a silhouetted Hewitt man that they found the body of the slaughterhouse owner, so now they're gonna have to go arrest old Leatherface Tom. Sheriff Winston is played by Lou Temple, he of The Walking Dead, and that real rough scene in the director's cut of Rob Zombie's Halloween. In his brief screen time, he manages to bring a real hellbilly quality to this movie.
You could bring a horse to organism using your finger. You believe that shit?
Winston mentions that this town has dried up so much, he's the last damn police in the whole damn place. That means he's the only one here to deal with Thomas, who he tries to apprehend when he finds him walking down the middle of the road. But Sheriff Winston didn't count on Hewitt family loyalty, and he's shot in the back of the head with his own police shotgun by, wait for it, Arlie Ermey, which you probably had already guessed.
Shit, I just killed the whole fucking sheriff's department.
Turns out Sheriff Winston's last name was Hoyt, and with him dead, we see the origin of the Sheriff Hoyt we're familiar with, who, turns out, isn't actually a sheriff at all, and whose name isn't actually Hoyt. His real name is Charlie Hewitt. Charlie Two Hats, they call him. And like I said in the intro, I do like this reveal. It's kind of funny, and explains his very unpolice-like behavior in the reboot. Not that it really needed explaining, of course. Also unnecessary? This supervillain speech Hoyt gives at the dinner table that night to his mama Luda Mae and his uncle Monty. He tells them that with everyone else having left the town, they're now going to rule over it and start, eating people. Starting with Charlie's new namesake, the real Sheriff Hoyt. Ooh, Leatherface lied. By the way, speaking of Leatherface, he's once again played by Andrew Bernarski, who carried the chainsaw in the reboot. And although he's not wearing people face masks just yet, he does have that mankind muzzle to cover up the pockmarked face makeup that Greg Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger skillfully applied. With the Hewitt family origin story out of the way, now we can meet their soon-to-be victims. Our final girl is Chrissy, played by Jordana Brewster and her eyebrows, who, sure, has been in a movie that's grossed $1 billion, but for me, she'll always be that chick from The Faculty. Her boyfriend Eric, played by the phenomenally attractive Matt Bomer, is returning to Vietnam for a voluntary second tour, but this time he's going with his recently drafted little brother, Dean. Only problem is, Deanie Weenie and his girlfriend Bailey are planning to dodge that draft and hide out in Mexico. On their way to a base station, they briefly stop at the Hewitt family's best little general store in Texas, ostensibly so the ladies can pee, but really so they can run into this biker couple, Alex and Holden, for plot purposes. Yay, plot stuff! After they're back on the road, Dean inexplicably decides that this is the best time to burn his draft card, right there in the back of his brother's Jeep. Obviously, Eric notices, and they get into an actually interesting argument about things like PTSD and the morality of war. But it's cut short when they're flagged down by that biker chick Alex wielding a sawed-off shotgun. The distraction causes them to T-bone a cow in the middle of the road, wrecking both the beef and the Jeep. And after a very violent tumble, Chrissy is missing from the vehicle entirely, while the others are, well, not in the best of shapes right now. Not the best time to experience highway robbery, but that's exactly what that biker chick Alex attempts before her efforts are thwarted by a police car arriving on the scene. And looks like you're out of luck, Alex, because this phony Sheriff Hoyt likes to shoot first and read Miranda rights later. Actually, he probably doesn't read them at any point. Might not be able to read anything at all, come to think of it. While Chrissy wakes up far from the crash, pulling a real Jack Shepherd there, Hoyt gets the others out of the Jeep with some very unlawful behavior, including putting his gun in their faces and sexually assaulting them. Yeah, Chrissy, this is one occasion where the grass is much greener exactly where you're at. Hoyt finds the half-burnt draft card and asks the boys which one of them is the dirty draft dodger. Before Dean can admit to it though, his brother Eric claims to be the culprit, earning him scorn and beratement from the dude who was just eating people last night. Hoyt sticks the living in the back seat and the dead shotgun girl and Shoddy, and then takes off, unknowingly leaving Chrissy behind at the crash site. While she's rummaging around for the gun that she knows Eric had in the Jeep, a tow truck pulls up. And although it's not Matthew McConaughey driving this thing, it is still one of Leatherface's relatives, Uncle Monty Hewitt, that guy from the remake who had become a double amputee by that point. Looks like we've got another origin story on our hands. Or feet? Monty finds Eric's gun before Chrissy's able to grab it, and then he hooks up the Jeep and drives off with it without ever noticing Chrissy in the back seat. Sweet, free Uber. Hoyt gets back to the Hewitt house and immediately hangs up the brothers out back so he can hose them down like the mischievous prick that he is. Then Monty gets back, towing the Jeep, so Chrissy is able to sneak around and see the boys in their perilous position. Pretty rough situation here, but at least all the kids are together. Oh, nope, Chrissy's off on her own again. Eventually, she flags down that other biker dude, Holden, as he's conveniently driving down the road. When she tells him a psycho sheriff took his gal pal Alex, he arms up and follows Chrissy back towards the Hewitt house. Hoyt surprises Eric with a roll of saran wrap, his favorite go-to tool apparently. With his brother nearly suffocating to death, Dean finally admits that he's Dean the draft dodger, and that gets Hoyt to cut open an air hole for Eric, although not in the friendliest of ways. Hoyt throws Dean to the ground and starts yelling at the youngster about his own time as a POW in Korea. Do I smell another unnecessary explanation here? This time exploring Hoyt's cannibalistic roots?
You got captured, you had two choices. Starve to death or survive.
Yep, that's exactly what I smell. Hoyt makes a deal with Dean. If he can do 20 push-ups, he'll let the draft dodger walk free. But you know what they say about things that sound too good to be true. They fucking are, dumbass. And Hoyt failed to mention that the push-ups would be done while Dean is being beaten with a baton. Hey, at least he didn't make him plyo push-ups, right, Dean? Always look on the bright side. Oh, and watch that form, mister.
Only half of one, that don't count.
See? Form's important. After a brutal scene that actually took them 6 or 7 days to film, Dean finally finishes his set, but Hoyt deals out some bonus beatings and a spine stomp, so although Dean is technically free to go now, he probably won't be moving for a while there. Meanwhile, inside the house, Bailey's not having the best of times either, since she's currently being hand-washed by Luda May so she can be presentable during tea time. That's right, it's tea time, cause here comes the tea lady with her little tea kettle, and she's ready to have some tea, motherfuckers. But sorry, Bailey, no tea on the floor. Them's the tea rules. Eric manages manages to break himself free from his pulley system captivity, and after tending to his brother, he launches into an attack on the Hewitts, starting with a brick through the window, and then a full-on storming of the castle. He frees Bailey, and together they use the tea lady as a barrier to keep Hoyt out of the kitchen. But aside from that minor victory, everything else about their escape is a total failure. Bailey starts driving away in the tow truck, but since she didn't bother closing the door, Leatherface just hooks her right on out of the vehicle. Hoyt catches up to the brothers and knocks out Eric with his shotgun, and Dean's escape route takes him right through a bear trap that stops him for good. Somehow Chrissy and that biker dude Holden don't make it back to the Hewitt house until after nightfall. While Holden heads inside to save his biker girlfriend, Chrissy finds Dean still stuck in that bear trap. Sucks to be him, but at least he's not Eric, who's currently being meal prepped by Leatherface, or Bailey, who is possibly raped by Sheriff Hoyt. That's what the exterior shot in Scream suggests anyway. Man, this sucks. There's nothing new or interesting about these torture scenes when we're seeing them for the 6th damn time. Aw shit, and Eric's literally getting flayed alive? That's just goddamn brutal, man. Yo, and quit trying to recreate that Pam shot from the original. It gets worse every time. Chrissy sneaks into the Hewitt house and stealthily crawls around, while Holden decides to just walk straight the fuck in and shoot Monty in the leg. He gets the jump on Hoyt as well, and demands that he be taken to where the girl is. But the girl Hoyt leads him to is Bailey, and Holden's only interested in rescuing his girl.
You don't want to see the other girl.
When Holden goes to shoot Hoyt, Leatherface stops him by hitting his arm with a powered-down chainsaw. But it doesn't stay powered down for long, because after Leatherface throws Holden on top of it and Hoyt holds him down, the saw gets revved up again, and Holden is killed in a loud, blood-spraying affair that doesn't end until the chainsaw is brought up through his body.
Beautiful bastard, you!
Yeah, I guess it was a pretty good kill, Hoyt. You still fucking crazy though. With Leatherface preoccupied upstairs, Chrissy is able to find Eric, who's been bolted to a slab and is pretty out of it thanks to the old Leatherface treatment. Or should I say House Bolton treatment, ew. She's unable to free him before Leatherface comes back downstairs, so she has to hide under the table and try to stay quiet as Leatherface revs up his chainsaw and kills her boyfriend right above her by cutting into Eric's torso, just barely missing Chrissy in the process. Almost had a twofer there, Thomas. This was one of my favorite kills to see the behind the scenes for, since Nicotero and Berger made a full-size dummy of Eric with a cable-operated head and neck. That let them move it around while the saw went through a chest filled with fake entrails and blood. Awesome. The behind the scenes also showed the amazing replica Matt Bomer face they made with the terrifying skinned head underneath it. A necessary prop for when Leatherface acquires his very first face mask in this timeline. I love that it's Matt Bomer's face too. Enjoy starting at the top, Thomas. You'll never find another face to wear that's as handsome as this one. And I'm not the only one impressed by how good looking Matt Bomer is. Take it from the late Marietta Merrick, who played Luda Mae Hewitt.
What a gorgeous guy he is. He has the most fantastic eyes. Oh, he's so beautiful.
Then again, don't count yourself out, Marietta. You were damn good looking yourself at that age.
I did, believe it or not, glamour roles. Singing and dancing and television and radio. I'd done just about everything.
Still, even mean old Sheriff Hoyt thinks that Bomer face is bomb.
I like your new face.
I guess it was worth that mess you left behind. On her way out of this traumatizing basement, Chrissy slips and falls so she can join the gratuitous wet shirt club. She's just about out the front door when she's stopped by the screams of Bailey coming from upstairs. Aw man, now I gotta save my friend's life. This night just keeps getting worse. As Chrissy and her hint of ass crack heads upstairs, the Hewitts tend to Monty and the bullet in his leg.
That's right, should just do something.
Oh, Monty, you should not have trusted this asshole, because Hoyt's solution is to have Thomas the Chainsaw Engine come in and amputate the leg off entirely. Oh no, and it looks like he nicked the other leg too?
Look at that. Now, Tommy, that's goddamn sloppy. That'll get infected. Even him up.
And that, dear viewer, is how Monty lost his legs. When I first saw the remake, I just assumed he lost his legs in a war. Boy, was I wrong on that one. Chrissy finds Bailey and starts to untie her, but she's immediately discovered by Hoyt, so I guess that means we're about due for another dinner scene. And look at that, the gang's all here. Well, not all here exactly. Some of them are missing a few parts. Chrissy tries to talk shit and calls the Hewitts a bunch of inbred degenerates, but that only results in Leatherface Leatherface coming out and slitting Bailey's throat, killing her right there at the dinner table. Damn, I guess Bailey won't be given any more hugs after that. But at least she had manners enough to keep her elbows off the table. For her death, they were able to use a real thick prosthetic neck filled with blood, knowing that the camera angle for this shot would hide the unnatural looking thickness. Leatherface tries to carry Chrissy back down into the basement, but she manages to escape him with a screwdriver stab to the back. She then gets out of the Hewitt house with a patented window crash dive that all Texas Chainsaw Final girls are very well versed in. You'd better go and chase after her now, Leatherface. We wouldn't want to do anything different in this movie. Dean wakes up at the dinner table and sees that his girlfriend has been killed. That discovery gives him the strength to attack Hoyt. But like I said up top, it's not all that exciting, since we know the faux sheriff's gonna live no matter how many times Dean bashes his head against the ground. And it is a whole bunch of damn times. Wow. Chrissy's chainsaw chase leads her to the slaughterhouse, where she finds the owner's body and, more importantly, the keys to his car. Although she tries hiding from Leatherface in a vat of animal blood, he finds her and is all ready to chainsaw her to death when Dean comes to the rescue. It's a short-lived rescue though, and Dean is killed when Leatherface stabs him through the back with his chainsaw and lifts him up off the ground while mulching his innards. I'm surprised we haven't seen a chainsaw kill quite like this one in the series before, so good job, movie. Chrissy gets to the car outside and starts to drive away, finally freeing herself of all this meat industry misery. But right when she spies possible redemption up ahead, Leatherface pops up in the back seat like the Moonlight Man and kills her by sticking his chainsaw through the car seat and her back. It's not often a final girl dies, but it does happen, especially when your movie's a prequel. And hey, what the hell? Let's count these two dudes that get hit by the car as well, since that was a pretty serious accident, and I don't see how anyone could have survived it. Texas Chainsaw remake movies, man, always hitting us with those last-minute kills. The movie ends with Leatherface walking away from the carnage in his wake, as John Larroquette reprises his voiceover narration role to remind us what franchise we've been watching for the past 6 weeks.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Thanks, John. Almost forgot. How many people did the Hewitts kill in the beginning? Let's find out at the numbers. Hey, turns out I have to reshoot this segment after I randomly decided to shave, so in the interest of continuity, there, all better. 11 people died in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, the most of the series so far. The victims consisted of 7 men and 4 women, a nearly 2-to-1 ratio of more dudes. With a runtime of 96 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 8.73 minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Holden. Lots of chainsaw deaths in this movie, but I like how this one was relatively subdued, even though it was a guy getting cut in half. Dull Machete for lamest kill will go to Leatherface's unnamed mother, who died during childbirth. That's not fun, that's just a tragedy. And that's it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, came out in 2006, but didn't do so hot at the box office, so they ended up scrapping this timeline. The series would get another sort of reboot with 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D, which I'll be looking at next week. But until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count. Thanks a lot for watching this week's Kill Count. I want to thank some patrons like Andrea Jacobson, Patrick Spencer, Nash10, Mario Popescu, and Manuel Martinez. Just a reminder, the first ever live show for the Dead Meat Podcast is going to be on Sunday, July 7th at RTX in Austin, Texas. So if you want to join us, get tickets for RTX. Links in the description. Thanks everyone. Be good people.